Board Member Babcock, Vice Chairperson Baker,
Here.
Chairperson Keller,
Here.
Board Member Duvall,
Here.
Board Member Noslet,
Here.
Board Member Thurkel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
First on the item of the agenda is approval of July meeting minutes. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the July 27th, 2023 Board of Adjustment meeting.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any questions or comments for the board? Madam Secretary, please provide a roll call.
Vice Chairperson Baker, Chairperson Keller,
Here.
Board Member Duvall,
Here.
Board Member Noslet,
Here.
Board Member Thurkel.
Here.
Just for clarification, all those heres were voting in favor of the motion, is that correct?
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify the record, thank you.
Next on the agenda is a request for a variance, which was filed by the applicant Andrew Gribble of Kimley and Horn on behalf of Whataburger. Madam Secretary, will you please provide an introduction for this item?
This is a request for a variance from Branson Municipal Code, Section 9487, pertaining to audible electronic devices for the properties located at 600 West Main Street and 601 West Pacific Street in Branson, Missouri.
Before we proceed, please note that we are recording tonight's meeting so that in case of an appeal, it can be transcribed. Before you speak during this public hearing, we will have you sworn in by the recorder. Once they have finished, we will ask you to please fill out the sign-in sheet at the podium, state and spell your name for the record, and give us your address. I will now open the public hearing for Andrew Gribble's request for a variance. We will first hear a report on this variance from the city staff, and then we will hear a report from the applicant. Everyone who wishes to speak on this matter tonight will have an opportunity to be heard. We ask that you be mindful of everyone's time and refrain from making comments that are repetitive. We ask that the members of the public limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. Mayor Ashmore, would like to present a report on behalf of the city staff?
I would, thank you.
You want me to swear you in?
Please.
Would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do. Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Before we begin, I would like to submit certified copies of the applicable ordinances. The first being Section 94-155, Board of Adjustment. Second, Section 94-87, Off-Street Parking Standards. I would also like to submit the following items for the record. The staff report, that includes the backup documentation, Exhibits 1 through 9, and the PowerPoint presentation prepared by staff. So tonight we're here for a variance request from the applicant Andrew Gribble of Kinley Horn on behalf of Whataburger Restaurants, LLC, who will be leasing the property. The request is for the board to consider a variance to allow an audible electronic device to be located approximately 179 feet from a residential dwelling. Current code states that we must advertise a meeting at least 7 days prior. So here we have a copy of the neighborhood notice postcard. This was sent out to residences and property owners within 185 feet of the subject parcel. We also have our notice of public hearing, which was advertised in the Branson Tri-Lakes News, October 28th of 2023. So to give you an idea of the location, The property is located along an arterial roadway, which would be West Main Street. It's east of US Highway 65 and southeast of the interchange of US Highway 65 and State Highway 76. In general, this is a high-traffic commercial corridor connecting the entertainment district on West 76 Country Boulevard to the historic downtown and the Branson Landing. It's not uncommon to have a drive-through establishment located in this type of commercial area, which has been historically named Hamburger Hill. If you want to take a look at the map above, to the north of the subject parcel, we have various commercial restaurants such as Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Steak and Shake, and directly to the east of the parcel, approximately 2 lots over, we have Wendy's. All of these facilities do have drive-throughs. Next, we have our arithmetric views of the property from the north and the south, as well as the west and the east. The existing land use is vacant property. This used to be the former Taco Habitat location. The current zoning is community commercial. A restaurant with a drive-through is a permitted use by right in this district. If we look to the north, where we have McDonald's and Chick-fil-A, those are also zoned community commercial. Directly to the east, we have community commercial lots. And directly to the south, those lots are currently zoned medium density residential. Here we have an aerial with utilities. As you can see, staff has no concerns about sewer or water access for the subject property. Most of the applicable standards in the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to a drive-through have been met. However, the location of the speaker box is not in compliance with the separation distance requirement of 250 feet. The proposed speaker box is approximately 179 feet from the nearest residential unit as measured from the speaker box. The need for this variance is partly attributed to the proximity to the existing residential structures, which limits the ability to comply with code. It should be noted that all drive-through areas, including menu boards, stacking lanes, trash receptacles, loudspeakers, drive-up windows, and all other objects associated with the drive-through area shall be located in the side or rear yard of a property to the maximum extent feasible and shall not cross, interfere, or impede any public rights-of-way. So just to clarify, this ordinance does contain this variance does have 2 separate speaker boxes. This one is the location of the northwest speaker box, and we also have one to the southeast. So the one we're going to focus on in the site plan we're focusing on is the one for the southeast because it's 179 feet from the residential structure, whereas the other one is 186 feet. So that will fall in with this approved variance. So just to go over the site plan a little bit before we hand this over to the applicants, and they have a very similar site plan. Let's see here, I can adjust this microphone. There we go. Okay, so the existing speaker box is going to be right here, or the proposed speaker box. As you can see, this is the one of concern. It's 179 feet from the residential structure. We do have 2 additional residential structures. This one is 250 feet, which would be in compliance with existing code. And this house here, which is actually in a property that's zoned community commercial, that's 278 feet. So staff has no concerns at this moment. If you take a look, if we were to comply with the 250 feet, the speaker box would be much more close to Main Street, right about there. So before I pass it off, does anybody have any questions?
Which way is the traffic coming? From the north to the south?
Let's see here.
this would be the north parcel, or the north part where Main Street is. Traffic will be directed to come down Main Street, come down 6th, and back up through Pacific. So hopefully that'll prevent any traffic jams. And the applicant has submitted in the exhibits an alternative traffic plan in which the cars would go, let's see if I can get a better map for you. Yeah, that's the right way.
I want to make my,
In which
I appreciate that information. You kind of jumped ahead on me there. That was good. My actual question was is which way were the cars going through the drive-through?
Oh!
Were they going from north to south or south to north?
Yes. So they would be going south to north. Let's see here. There we go. So they would be coming in from the south and coming up to the north and exiting through there, coming back around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ashmore. We will now hear from the applicant and/or their representatives regarding the request. Please be sure to sign in and give us your name, address for the record. Prior to presenting your request, you will be sworn in by the court reporter.
Good evening, Board. John Chamberlain, Chamberlin. I'm with Kimley Gordon Associates. I am here to basically fill in this evening for Andrew Gribble. He had another engagement in another city, so I'm here to fill in for him.
Would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, John, and will you now please present your request?
Yes, as presented by staff, we're asking for a variance. And let's see if I can get to the right slide here. Okay. Big block 1, big block 2, all right. She's already, kind of already gone over the existing site.
Excuse me, sir, could you speak into the microphone?
Oh.
Thank you.
This is the exhibit for the northern speaker box, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time covering this because it's already been covered. So I'm going to focus more here on speaker box exhibit number 2 and the variance that we are requesting due to the 179 feet to the residence to the south. There are some things that we are doing with site plan to mitigate any impacts that we would have on that property. One, these speaker boxes, the speaker box actually faces to the east. So it's actually facing out towards the public right-of-way to the east. It does not face to the south. So the sound cone coming out of the speaker is basically going to propagate to the east and not to the south. So that's one. The second thing is, as part of our site plan, we have went in here and added burning and trees, not only to provide a visual barrier to the property to the south, but also to enhance the sound barrier to that property to the south. And we think that these two measures here will more than mitigate the sound and keeping the decibel levels down to an acceptable level. One of the other things that we have agreed to with staff is that the speaker would be set so the volume would be no more than 85 decibels at 25 or 20 feet from the speaker itself. So that is something that we've agreed to, and that volume would be a set volume, that it would not be adjustable. So it would be set at that, even though the speaker equipment does have the ability to be adjusted in volume, has different settings. There's like 7 different settings on the equipment. We've agreed to have it at one setting that would not exceed the 85 decibel limit. Here's kind of what we are looking at on a temporary traffic plan, and we see this more as something that's going to occur during the opening few weeks of the facility until kind of the novelty wears off. Everybody wants to come to a new facility when it first opens, and then things kind of settle down after that initial rush. As noted by staff, traffic would come in here, circulate here around, and it could right turn back out, or traffic could come on around and it could circulate in this way. So there's really two options there for traffic circulation. I think the one thing to note is that left-bound traffic cannot come in because it's blocked off by the island that's out in Main Street itself. And this is kind of a picture of an installed assembly for one of these speakers. And the speaker itself would be over here on this side of the order panel. And as I stated previously, the volume will not exceed 85 decibels at 20 feet, and the automatic volume control will remain set at one constant level. And with that, I will open it up to any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, John. Does the board have any questions or comments for the applicant?
Yes. Push the button here. Yes, sir. I appreciate the work you've done to try to mitigate this problem. Let me start with the speakers, and you have referred, and you're referred to the cone directional of the speaker. Okay, and this is going to be one of the important factors. The menu panel that you have is canted. It's not straight to the east. It would be canted somewhat to the south, correct?
That is correct.
Do you have any idea how many degrees that is?
No, I do not.
Okay.
But I imagine that it would be adjustable, that we could
Yeah.
work with the city on adjusting that to a desired level or
Okay.
desired orientation.
Right, sir. You referred to the speaker being mounted on the left-hand side or towards Main on that. I checked your data on your speakers, et cetera, and it stated the speaker could be mounted to either side and also be adjusted to 15 degrees. That was in the data you provided. If the speaker is placed on the south side of the menu box and turned in slightly, should be able to give you at least 90 degrees from centerline speaker towards the house. If you do that, according to specifications, general specifications on speakers, this would give you about a 12 dB loss to that side. Is there any problem with you doing that?
I don't believe that there's any problem with that.
Okay, well, this would probably be part of the stipulations of approving it. So, and, you know, if there is, we'll see what we can do, but that will be part of stipulations. That will probably make one of the biggest differences we have for okaying it.
Okay.
Okay. Seemed like it was something else. I think that'll do for now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your comments.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I have a couple. The design of the landscape berm that you included, was that something that you took upon yourselves originally to do, or did that come about from discussions after you were interested?
I believe that came up after we were made aware that we had, you know, the ordinance related to the sound concern with property. So we were looking, as we were working with staff, as a way to try to mitigate that.
Also, I struggled just a little bit reading my traffic study map. Is, at least in the preliminary opening, will the 6th Street entrance be closed, or will cars have access to that to still use it?
I don't think it would be closed. I think it would be open. Which street were you referring to?
It's 6th Street. It's the north-south on the east side of the property.
Oh, this one here?
Yes.
I don't believe that it would be closed. No.
Sir, I thought something else, I'd like to go back at you again here. On the berms are tricky subjects in noise abatement. Has to do with the angle of the berm, the rise on the berm, the height of the berm, type of vegetation on it, etc. I think, as I'll present here later, then we can probably negate the requirement for the berm, although I would like to see it there partially as a blocker for the house, etc. I would also recommend versus a berm, either way, you could go a fence, a solid type fence of at least 6 foot. It will negate the sound more than the berm probably will, unless it's specially engineered. But we're gonna leave that open. I don't think it'll have to be part of it, nor do I think there'll have to be a requirement for the berm to be there.
Right. Well, I think that we would certainly be open to installing a solid fence in there to, I mean, ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to mitigate our impacts. I mean, that's what we're here trying to do, and to make the adjustments required in order to do that.
Correct, and we do appreciate that. I think in the long run, overall expense, you'd find the fence cheaper due to maintenance, maintaining the trees and initial. And you can put a pretty nice fence in there that would probably negate better than the berm would. Because like I say, it's kind of an engineering nightmare to properly build a berm for sound.
Agreed.
Thank you. Any other questions for you? You good? Everybody? I will now open the meeting up to anyone from the public wishing to speak in regard to this request. Please fill out sign-in sheet at the podium, state and spell your name for the record, and give your address. Prior to your comments, you will be sworn in. Please try to limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Are you good? Would you like to speak?
Yes, sir.
Please approach the podium.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Please state your name
Sir.
and your address.
I'm JC News Now, and I live here in this beautiful city.
Okay. And your address?
I just live here in the city.
Okay.
My comment is totally unrelated to what's going on. I was just curious, do we not say the Pledge of Allegiance before we have public meetings anymore? I think that's very, very important, because this is a wonderful city, country, and I don't think it should ever be taken lightly. It's just a suggestion.
So noted.
And is there any possible way that we can do that?
We'll take it under advisement and give it to the staff.
Thank you, Board.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else from the public wish to speak on this matter? Prior to closing the public hearing, I want to review the items thus far submitted for the record. I have 12 items from the city, which includes the PowerPoint presentation, staff report, exhibits 1 through 10. Is there anything else from the city?
Just as a slight modification, we have 11 exhibits. That was my fault in the typographic error. Other than that, that should be it for the city.
So noted.
Thank you.
Are there any items submitted for record by the applicant? At this time, everybody present and wishing to speak regarding this matter will be given the opportunity to speak. I will now close the public hearing and open the floor for discussion between board members. You may ask specific clarifying questions of staff, the applicant, or anybody who has spoken.
Excuse me, Chairman. If I may, for a clarification, I do believe the applicant submitted their PowerPoint as an evidence to this board for consideration as well.
Okay, we so noted then.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make some comments on this.
Go ahead.
Okay, having worked in this field somewhat, I've done some research on it. And there's two very important factors on it. One being distance. Sound is dissipated over distance. It's an easy formula, it's nonlinear, so the drop-off is greater the further you get. At the house, from 85 dB, which would be part of the requirement, it would be at a 66.99, so a drop-off of about 18 dB at that distance. At 250 feet, which would be the code, it would drop down to 63. So we're already only about 3 to 4 dB from attaining what the code requires. The next one that was brought up by the applicant is the offset of the speaker, the conal effect of the speaker being greater to the front than it is to the side. If you put the speaker perpendicular to the house, it would give you an approximate dB drop of 12. This would drop the total dB down to about 54, somewhere in that area. As an explanation to it, a whisper is about 40 dB. Normal voice would be about 60 dB. My wife being mad at me is about 75 dB. And traffic, normal traffic, which would be heavy in that area, would be about 85 dB, where we're starting from to begin with. With this in mind, we now have it down to, what did I say, about 54 dB, which is very low and more than meets the tolerance of the 250 feet. So just kind of entering this in the record as part of what decision is being made on. Let me go with the mic here a second.
I had one question
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
for the city, and you kind of addressed it a little bit. Have any decibel studies been done on the noise of the street in that area for normal traffic flow or what that noise level is? And then my part two of that question kind of leads on is, what's the situation between the McDonald's and their speaker going to the north?
So to the best of my knowledge, I do not know of any existing studies on the noise level on Main Street. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm just not aware of it. As far as McDonald's goes, they've been around for a long time. I was actually digging for some files. Our digital records only go back to 2013, but the approximate distance measured from GIS to their speaker box is 154 feet to the nearest residential unit. Again, to the best of my knowledge, I have not heard of any complaints or concerns as far as the volume or the decibels go.
Thank you.
If I could add to your question there, or try to help answer it. Last board meeting, we had an application for the same type situation. I went to that site, and when the speaker was being placed, which is very busy road close to the circle at the hospital, and I measured 85 to 90 dB from road traffic at that point. I did not do it here, but 76, I'm sure, is going to be a little bit as well.
Thank you.
Okay, if I can carry on, what I started at. So please, we've got to be
All right. JC News Now. Peace.